Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover, and as always, you can follow me on X at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. And today on the Lock It Down Sports podcast, how this player may be viewed once his time is finished in Atlanta, the odd trade for the Boston Red Sox, the college football playoff setup, and a dart attack. And I want to start today's show with the Rafael Devers going to the Giants. And to me, none of this makes sense from a Boston standpoint. And they've handled this completely wrong. And I'll go back a little ways to the Boston handling and the front office. I'm going back to the Mookie Betts deal. Going back to, you didn't want to pay Mookie Betts, which to me is odd. So you trade what would have been and could have been one of your franchise players, whether he was your right fielder, you kept him right fielder, or you moved him to shortstop, whatever. Either one, when your potential franchise players, for basically nothing, as you get Alex Verdugo was the only kind of productive player in the deal. The other ones weren't good, haven't really done anything substantial at the big league level, regardless of the team. Then you have a decision. Okay, do we pay Rafael Devers or do we pay Xander Bogaerts? I mean, I think that's kind of a pretty easy one, but still you're at the point of, okay, where do I go? Devers or do I go Bogaerts? Of course, they let Bogaerts walk. And, Devers is your guy, and Devers is one of the best offensive players in the game. So coming into this, so you got Devers for a few years, right? Locked up for 7-8 years, right? Then coming into this season, you go out and trade for Garrett Crochet and lock him up. You sign Alex Bregman and Aroldis Chapman. So essentially what you've done is you brought in a top of the rotation arm, a top bullpen arm, and one of the best available bats on the free agency market. By those moves, you're trying to win now and compete. Devers, probably a top 15, top 20, top 25 offensive player in the big leagues. I mean, outside of his first year where he hit 240, 21 and 66 and 490 at bats, his worst season was 272, 28 homers, 83 ribs. So you know what you're getting from him in return. And the solid to good production you're getting from Rafael Devers. He's your guy, homegrown dude. He's your franchise, your cornerstone franchise. You trade him, and what it looks like you got in return, granted, of course, it's early obviously, but it doesn't look like you got very much for him on the whole, outside of, yes, you unloaded his contract, but you knew his contract of, he's a third baseman, we might have to move him to first, and maybe eventually he DHs when you at the time of locking him up to that contract. So you knew that, you were fine with it, you were okay with it. So to me, though, I think some of this is on Devers a little bit as well. And still some of the front office is kind of that meshing. So the front office told Devers, hey, you're not going to play. You are going to play third. You're going to play third this year. Okay, that's fine. Cool. And Alex Bregman is going to go play second base. That was the initial to bring in Alex Bregman's bat. But then when you think about all this, why are you moving a good defender, Gold Glover, and Alex Bregman off third base when Rafael Devers is not a good third baseman at all? And you've got a bunch of these prospects, guys you kind of like for second base to kind of see, what happens and where that shakes out. So it's like, well, we'll just put our bad defender at DH. So they told him, you know what, put your glove away. You're going to DH. And Devers says, okay, I'm going to DH. Put my glove. You told me to put my glove away. I'm going to DH. Okay, I'm going to DH. Well, then Tristan Kaysen gets hurt. And, hey, Rafi, you want to go play first base? No. And he says no. It's like, oh, okay. Hey, you told me to put my glove away. I don't want to play first. But also, too, come on, Devers. Do you want to be a team guy? Yes, we paid you all this money. Yes, you're going to be here, but you want to be a team guy, right? So there's that. Where he said no, he didn't want to play first. Then this kind of set him off where now demoted prospect Christian Campbell, a rookie, said, yeah, I'll play first base. He volunteered to play first base, A, to get on the field, B, to help the team. Devers, it's reported, was unhappy with the decision, interpreting it was a slight on his own status, which that's kind of interesting. And why should Devers be unhappy with that? He said they asked him the opportunity to play first, and he said no. So they've got to feel someone to play first base because you're not willing to move there because you're bat only a DH. There's also reports David Ortiz offered to assist and guide Devers while in Boston when he was with Boston, but he never heard back or rarely heard back from him. There's a lot. So there's a lot of issues for like button heads there. I think some of this reads to me is he didn't like how Devers didn't like how the front office was handling the situation and how they're handling the star. That's me. I'm a third baseman. I want to play third base. You're going to get to play third base. No, we're bringing a Gold Glover because he's one of the best bats. All that, Hey, can you go to first? No, I'm not going to first. You told me to put my glove away. So the angst, the butting heads, and how everything was treated. So I think it's very funny, maybe, or even a little bit telling that Devers comes out and says, Giants, whatever you want me to do. I'll play first base. I'll play third base. I'll DH. Whatever you want me to do, I'm right here for you. I can play wherever. To me, I think some of this has to do with Buster Posey and the respect that he has around the game and how he's running and handling the front office. I think also, too, he sees that, you know what? Hey, I can be traded away. And he's trying to not be a problem in the new clubhouse. Boston was the guy, came up, was just basically a stud from the jump. In San Fran, he's just another guy. He's trying to fit in to be another guy. He's not going to play third base because you're not moving Matt Chapman off. Yes, I know Chapman's hurt now, obviously, but you're not moving Matt Chapman over at third, Gold Glover, who can go pick it over at third, great defender. What are you doing? I mean, John's got a prospect they like at first base, and maybe he blocks him, but I don't think they've come out and said the Giants weren't going to trade their first baseman that they like. So Devers will play first base. He'll play some third maybe when Chapman needs a day or he comes off. So there's a lot of things going on. I think he wants to be good in the clubhouse when it comes to, the Giants and try to let them settle in with the club. Now, this came out the other day or this week, a proposal for the college football playoff that would affect the strength of schedule metrics when it comes to non-conference scheduling, when it comes to the committees, looking at schedules and strength and opponents played. And I think this is a good thing because that stuff should matter who you play and the results against them, not Indiana's schedule, which is a cupcake. Not Indiana's fault. They played who they played, and they won who they were supposed to beat. You know, they won who against who they were supposed to win to. So you can't fault them. But you know, there's a lot of questions with that. So that's just an example of the non-conference versus regular season conference schedules and the conflicting schedules that the SEC plays 8 conference games. And then they play one Power 4 conference game, typically is how it works out. I think this could very much benefit the SEC as they stay at their 8 conference games and schedule a Power 4 conference. Now, this doesn't really, I don't think this is really reported into, which makes sense. This doesn't make the Big Ten happy since they play 9 conference games as it is, and then potentially one tough or one Power 4 conference school. Some do, some don't, but it's like we play basically 10 real games. The SEC only plays 9. So there's some rub there. But I think also that a thing with this is Big Ten and the SEC control how the playoff structure is handled of the bids and the alignment and all that. Big Ten, I think, wants an even playing field. And there's been some new discussion of how bids will work. The Big Ten has been in favor of 4 automatic qualifiers, the SEC and the Big Ten, and then only with other conferences getting 2 with only 3 at larges. And that's really the big discussion if they go to, sadly, 16 teams, with the SEC initially was in favor of that. But after them all meeting coaches down in Destin, coaches are more in favor of the 5 at large, 5 automatic qualifiers for the conferences, and then your 11 at large. And I was like, let me do a little bit more digging. Let me look here. So I went back to 2014 with teams ranked in the top 14 of the final playoff rankings. And yes, I included the Oklahoma being in the SEC, Oregon being in the Pac-12, et cetera, that sort of breakdown with these counts. So in 2014, the SEC would have had 5 teams in the top 16, 15 2 teams, 16 4 teams, 17 4 teams, 18 7 teams, 19 they would have had 6 teams, 21 they would have had 4 teams, 22 3 teams, 23 7 teams, and 24 6 teams. So in that 10-year span, they had 48 teams in the playoffs. That's 4.8 teams in the league, in the playoffs per year. So it makes complete sense why the SEC would want the 5 automatic qualifiers and the 11 at large, because they know pretty much every year we're getting 5 teams in the playoff, maybe 6, but 5 teams guaranteed. And if you have the only 3 qualifiers, automatic qualifiers, maybe there's that team, maybe one of those SEC teams doesn't get in based on, how it's, how it stacks up. So I get it with the SEC schools saying, no, we're kind of like the 5-11 model. But the interesting thing too is with the Big Ten, I was like, all right, well, let me see what the Big Ten is, see what their fight, what their fight is. And I did the same mantra. Big Ten schools last 10 years, counting the likes of Oregon and Southern Cal, as a Big Ten school. And I did not use the 2020 COVID year. So 14, the Big Ten had 5 schools, 15, 5 schools, 16, 5 schools, 17, 6 schools, 18, 4 schools, 19, 6 schools, 21, 5 schools, 22, 6 schools, 23, 5 schools, and 24, 4 schools. So that's 50 schools, average of 5.1 teams per year. So it's kind of like scratching my head a little bit why they were so much in favor of the 5 qualifiers of not being the 5 qualifiers and 11 at large. Once again, they're potentially losing a school or two in that model, the 5 qualifiers of the only 3 at large teams. So it's kind of odd that they're fighting for this. Yes, I know they're complaining the SEC schools only play 8 conference games. And so they've got a freebie basically, and they play 9, but they're still right there in the same boat. 4.8 for the SEC, 5.1 for the Big Ten per year. Why not roll the dice and have your 11 at large? If you're so confident in your conference, the SEC's like, yeah, we're good. We feel good about it. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that shakes out if they go to, sadly, 16 teams and what it's going to look like in 2026 and beyond. Now, I was just scratching my head and thinking the other day about the Braves and about the outfield setup and the construction of it, and looking at comparing some players. And I want to go back a little bit. What was Jason Hayward in Atlanta? Supposed to be this bright young star and be with Atlanta his entire career. He's supposed to retire with Atlanta having a 15-year career, right? That came up, great, good rookie year, good defender, and he was just supposed to build on that. That's the Jason Hayward, right? So what was he in Atlanta? A good defender who had a good first year at age 22 and an okay year. His rookie year, which is 2012, so he hit 269, 27 homers, 82 ribs, 21 stolen bases. That's his best year. That was absolutely his best year at age 22, year 3, and a Gold Glove, OPS of 814, Gold Glove. So you're like, okay, that's only the tip of the iceberg, and he's about to explode. That's his best year. His rookie year, 2010, 277, 18 homers, 72 ribs, 11 stolen bases, 846 OPS. Of his 4 years, those were 5 years in Atlanta. Those were his best 2 years. His year 3 and his rookie year. So I was like, all right. And we know how the tenure turned out in Atlanta with Jason Hayward. It was nothing but disappointment, and that's it. That's all you are. I thought you were more than this. I saw your rookie year. I saw year 3 when you're like, okay, this is just a start for Jason Hayward. He's 35, 40 homers, 100 RBI guy, and good Gold Glove defense. He's that superstar we all hope for. So I wanted to ask you this question. What are your thoughts on Michael Harris? Because, the initial bump was sky high upside, can or will has the potential to be a star center fielder who plays great defense. His best year of his 3 years was his solid rookie year. 297, 19 homers, 64 ribs, 20 steals, 853 OPS. And that's the best of his 3 years. So that's his best year. I told you Hayward's best year. And Braves fans, hand raised, myself included, were completely fine with Jason Hayward no longer on the Braves based on what he did. But we're all happy and excited about Michael Harris being a Brave, and he's going to be a Brave because he's locked up. And I was pleasantly surprised that comparing their first 3 years, so Jason Hayward's 3 years and Michael Harris's first 3 years, and I just did all the numbers, compared them. I didn't look at games hurt and all because they've both been hurt. So Jason Hayward has better numbers in all categories comparing their first 3 seasons compared to Michael Harris, except for stolen bases, batting average, and slug. And if you want to get into some nitty-gritty numbers, yes, that's even including Jason Hayward has a higher WAR. He has more games played. OPS plus, all those numbers. If you don't want to look at the batting average, the homers, the RBIs is antiquated. Okay, has a higher OPS plus. Very surprising. But it's funny too, looking at Michael Harris's 3 years have been more consistent with his first year than, the up and down kind of all over the place-ish for Jason Hayward. So my suggestion is maybe we temper our expectations for Michael Harris and say, maybe this is it. This is him as a player. Maybe he doesn't take his game to 30-30, with a solid average. Maybe it doesn't go there. And he's not that. And that's okay. But that's not the Michael Harris we're all thinking, hoping for, based on what we've seen early on and his age. But I don't know if he gets there. He just might be a solid center fielder with okay numbers and good defense, which is fine. But he's not that glass ceiling best center fielder in Braves history, because we all know who that is. He's a borderline Hall of Famer and number 25 out there from Curacao. So that's not I don't know if he's going to go there. But he can be a solid center fielder, and that might be where we need to bring the level and the bar for Michael Harris. Now, all is fair in sports if you're not cheating, not right? And you do whatever it takes to win, right? I mean, that's if it's fair, if it's legal, within the rules, you do it, right? Even if that is darts we're talking about. That's right. Professional darts, a player had to release some gas, a few sounds that got caught on when they were streaming, and it might have smelled a little bit, says the other player. But if you ask me, no harm, no foul. Let her rip, especially if you're trying to get inside the head ahead of your opponent. Let her rip, let it fly, and keep on playing, keep on throwing darts. It's fun. Who cares? It's not a big deal. It's actually kind of funny because any guy, childish guy, knows all farts are funny. As always, you can follow me on X at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. I'm Locke Hoover. You've been listening to Lock It Down Sports. Talk to you next week.